So as I said, my name is Jo Kemp, and I am also joined on the line by Emily Duffield. She is the Program Officer for Investing in Rural Community Futures with FRRR. And we have a third FRRR colleague on the line, so Deb Samuels. She is our People Portfolio Lead, and she's jumped on today as well. So a big warm welcome. Thank you for giving up an hour of your day today. We know it's a busy time of year, so really appreciate your interest in learning more about the program. Just like to start us off today as well with an acknowledgement of country. We acknowledge the Dja Dja Wurrung people as the traditional owners of the region where you are today, in and around Maryborough, and the Wurundjeri people where I am in central Victoria, and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. And very grateful for the ongoing care of country for many thousands of years and into the future. Very, very grateful to live in this beautiful part of the world. So today, what will we talk about? So for those of you who don't know so much about FRRR, we'll give a little bit of a background about us as an organisation, and then into the origin of how IRCF, or the Investing in Rural Community Futures program, came about, the model and the things that make the program come together and create some great impacts for rural and regional communities. We're also really fortunate to be bringing the program to Victoria with 5 years of learning from partnering with 8 communities across New South Wales. So we can talk to some of the learnings and impact that we've seen there. And then we'll talk about next steps if you're interested as a community in getting involved. Make sure that there's plenty of time for questions at the end, and got a couple of videos to break up so it's not just all me talking in the first instance. So a little bit about FRRR, the only national foundation specifically focusing on ensuring social and economic strength in remote, rural and regional areas of Australia, and really bringing together government, philanthropy and community purposes and investment. We've been around since 2000, so celebrating our 25th anniversary next year. And it was a joint collaborative between the federal government and the Sydney Myer Fund to create FRRR in the first place, to really, with a vision of bringing resources and ensuring that they reach remote, rural and regional communities across the country. So we have a really broad national footprint, and very proud of being able to really make sure that funding is reaching all corners of the country and to some of our most remote communities as well. We have a really wonderful and supportive board with Tim Fairfax as the chair. Our board members are located also all over the country and are representative of the many different places across Australia. We are known as a grant-making organisation, but certainly play a very important role as well in walking alongside communities, supporting capacity building, and particularly an advocacy role around, the priorities and interests and gaps that rural and regional communities experience and seek to create positive impact around. Very much our philosophy is that local leaders and communities are best placed to know what they need to achieve positive impact in their communities. So a big part of our job is to listen and learn from people like yourselves, who are the experts for your communities, to really understand what's going on, and so we can understand how best FRRR can support outcomes and impacts in your community. So in the last nearly 25 years, there's been $177 million invested into more than 14,000 projects. In the last financial year, 2022-2023, there was in around 22.5 million across more than 11,000 projects. So we really aim to invest in targeted, well-informed projects and people and organisations across the country. Our vision is for a vibrant, resilient and revitalised remote, rural and regional Australia. And the way that we think about and and divide our work is across 4 themes, if you like, which are people, place, disaster resilience, and climate solutions. So people is the area where our Investing in Rural Community Futures program sits. It's about investing in the power of people to drive prosperity, ensuring equity, inclusion and opportunity, and ultimately well-being of communities now and into the future. The second stream is around place and supporting community resilience and cultural vibrancy in smaller, more remote communities, as well as some of the larger ones. And, it's great to be able to support small projects as far away as Western Australia and Northern Territory and some quite remote communities, as well as into some of our more regional town centres. One of the things about FRRR, which is really fantastic and gives us a lot of flexibility, is our broad remit to be able to support a range of themes and activities. So from environmental projects to health and wellbeing, social connectedness, economic sustainability, cultural activities. So it's quite unique organisation in that respect to really be able to support all the many things that happen in rural and regional communities and that are important to rural and regional communities. Disaster resilience is the third one. So recognising that climate change and natural disasters are one of the biggest threats to the sustainability and viability of rural and regional communities, and that very much solutions are held in local knowledge and the intersections between people and place, those things that I talked about just before. So partnering with communities before, during and after disasters is part of our role, but particularly the focus of our engagement with communities is in the medium to long-term recovery following a disaster, and particularly as well in supporting preparedness for future potential shocks that might come to our communities. And finally, the climate solutions stream. So this is our newest stream, but very much acknowledging that what we're hearing from communities is it's really important to have resources to be able to address climate solutions for them. So, supporting the activation and strengthening of local climate solutions within your own communities. All right, so excuse me, let's get into the program proper, what we're really here about today. So the background of I'm going to revert to acronyms here, the IRCF program, because that's what FRRR does. We love an acronym. So back in 2017, an impact study showed unmet demand for not-for-profit organisational capacity building, and that was a really clear theme to us. At that time, we were fortunate to have connection and a partnership with the Vincent Fairfax Family Foundation, and together a shared desire to work in a place-based way to strengthen the capacity and strengthen people in rural New South Wales. So that was the beginning of the program, and we were further, I guess, confirmed the opportunity with a study in 2021 conducted by FRRR, so quite a broad survey across many not-for-profit and community groups across the country, called the Heartbeat of Australia study, and that really reinforced the pressure on not-for-profits and the persistent gap in capacity building and a real desire for change. So we were able to forge a partnership with Vincent Fairfax Family Foundation to develop the program, and there were from the outset some key themes that were going to be really important to be part of the program, and one of those responding to the evidence was around collaboration and ensuring that was sort of front and centre as part of the program, so fostering collaboration between not-for-profit organisations to create sector efficiencies and really increase capacity for community-wide advocacy. The second one was ensuring that there was flexibility for the program. So time is one of those things that creates flexibility. And the 5 years is a really wonderful amount of time to be able to work together with communities and respond as things happen and change throughout the cycle of the program. And it was really evident that what's become known as our community roadmaps. So that is something that happens at the outset with our partner communities to really think about what are the priorities, opportunities, possible gaps that you're seeing at the moment in your community that over the next 3 to 5 years the program could support. So that's a process that's revisited through the program. We'll talk a little bit more in detail about some of these things as we go along. But the third one was around activation of local connections and support, and having a mechanism to build relationships and drive a community-led approach and activate vital support for not-for-profit organisations. And so that's where the role of the community facilitator emerged, which is a local person that through the program we have the resources to engage to really act as a mentor and a coach and a connector for the community. And the fourth one was around evaluation and learning and being able to replicate this program for other communities to benefit from as well, which is kind of where we are right now at the beginning of being able to offer this program to Victorian communities. So on that, our partners, that we have a wonderful funder group that have come together in a collaborative partnership of $5 million over the next 5 years to support the program to be delivered in 3 Victorian communities. So those partners are the Jack Brockhoff Foundation, the William Buckland Foundation, Helen Macpherson Smith Trust and the Ross Trust. So it's a really unique partnership of funders. We're really excited to be working with them in this way, and they're all very committed to Victorian communities. So it's an exciting opportunity that we have. All right, so wanted to share the theory of change. So this is the thinking and reasoning behind the program. It really is the nitty-gritty and getting into the weeds, I guess. But I think it's important to understand from the outset, and then we'll talk about how the program in reality is delivered. So the theory of change is to build strong, collaborative, resilient and sustainable rural, regional and remote communities by providing flexible support and funding to local not-for-profit organisations that allows them to advocate effectively. So what we know is that rural, regional and remote not-for-profit organisations need more time and resources and funding to often reach their full potential. So by providing funding and interventions dedicated to strengthening across 4 key areas, which is systems, efficiencies, strategies and people. And we'll talk more about each of those in a moment. It supports collaboration and high-functioning not-for-profit organisations to be more resilient to shocks and adaptive to change into the future, which leads to stronger and more resilient local community and not-for-profit sector fulfilling its mission with greater impact. And ultimately, we're seeking to support higher functioning, more viable, more sustainable not-for-profit sector in general in rural, regional and remote communities across the country. So with that as a background, let's talk about what that means in reality. So these are the key elements of the IRCF model. And what we know is that together, the collective nature of them has real potential to achieve positive impact in rural and regional communities, and that making the most of each of these things and going on the entire journey as a community and organisations really has the potential for the greatest impact and change over time. So the first one is the community facilitator, which I talked to a little bit before, but they are really part of the gold really in the program and play a very important role as a neutral resource, as a coach and a mentor to facilitate collaborative conversations. So yeah, we've seen the impact that this role can play across all of our communities, and it's been really important. So the second piece is the community roadmap. So this is a co-designed, very participatory workshop activity that invites the broader community to come together and think about opportunities and priorities and goals over the next 3 to 5 years. There's lots of examples of the community roadmaps on the FRRR website if you're interested to have a look and go deeper into some of those. But it's something that is revisited on an annual basis because obviously things will change and adapt over time. And so it's a living document that grows with the program over the 5 years. The program really is targeted at supporting small to medium, locally led, grassroots, not-for-profit organisations. The quantum of resourcing that's available through the program really speaks to that group of organisations, but also very mindful that larger organisations and other stakeholders like the local council are really important stakeholders as part of the program as well. Collaboration is key, as I talked to before, and building trust from the outset of the program. And sometimes it's even around unlearning some of the competitive practices that as a community and as fundraising organisations becomes a natural thing because, often competing for different types of funding and so on. But by being able to support structured conversations and shared learning and have resourcing available through the program can be really useful in encouraging and supporting collaborative opportunities. Of course, there's funding through the program, but it's very much one element of a broader suite of things that makes the program work. But there's about $600,000 of funding available per community for both individual organisational capacity building as well as broader collaborative sector capacity building opportunities. So we distinguish how those funds are used over the life of the program. A digital hub is an important place to house all the information for communities, so that's available. We have a discrete area on the FRRR website for that. Has lots of great resources and information for partner communities, holds all the community roadmaps and such. So that's available to jump on and have a look at for our New South Wales communities if you'd like to. And the final thing is really around ongoing evaluation. First and foremost, for community partners, that's to support your learning and growth through the program and inform next steps. So that's the primary intention. Also for FRRR to be able to learn from you and better advocate and share learnings with philanthropy and government in a really useful way. There is definitely an expectation for our partner communities to lean into the evaluation and be actively involved in that. We're currently working through a process of identifying an evaluation partner for the Victorian iteration of the program. So we're not exactly sure what that will look like, but it may be things like one-on-one interviews, might be completing sort of self-assessment surveys around your organisation to help track and inform how you're progressing as an organisation. There may be community workshops. The community facilitator is a really great resource of information on what's happening in your community through the program as well. So very much the intention is that it's accessible, it's not a burden, but it's a really important element of the program. So I feel like we are breaking the program down bit by bit and sort of peeling off the layers of the onion. We talk about the 4 pillars of capacity building, and these are really what IRCF is centred around. It's woven through the design, the way we talk and engage with communities, and supports the way that the funds are distributed, guides the evaluation process. So it's really integral to the program and becomes a common language for engaging across all of those elements. So there's four pillars. The first being around people and being able to develop leadership capabilities and a renewed sense of community spirit, skill development. It might be things around supporting volunteer recruitment and training, leadership development, mentoring. So things along those lines. The second one is around efficiency, and this is really speaking to the collaboration that I talked about, and fostering relationships and practices to support efficient and effective collaboration with other not-for-profit organisations to really build community impact. That might look like collective impact training or peer-to-peer mentoring, networking and other platforms to share and connect. The third one is around systems, so supporting community leaders to gain insights and energy by sharing knowledge and systems and structures that demonstrate best practice. Might be related to legal structures and compliance and governance, communications, board skills development, HR elements. So there's a range of things that falls under that category. And then finally, around strategy. So the tools and measures that support and enable the sustainability of organisations, both now and well into the future. It might be around strategic planning and monitoring, or revenue strategies, developing frameworks for change within your community. So that is the final element that we talk about when we talk about the 4 pillars of capacity building related to the program. Before I share a little video, I thought I'd just talk a bit to the learnings from New South Wales from those 8 partner communities, which you can see on the map there. Over 5 years, there's been to date over $4 million in funding across those communities, supporting 85 not-for-profit organisations across 145 projects. And we talk about funds leveraged in the program. So what we see for organisations involved in the program is as they build their own organisational capacity, it really opens up new opportunities and pathways for accessing other channels of funding outside of FRRR. So we talk about the funds leveraged in addition to the funding that's been granted through the FRRR program. In the case of New South Wales, it's over $8 million, which is pretty exciting and great outcomes for those communities. The other one that I think really stands out as interesting is through the program in New South Wales, there's been 127 people employed. That's a really big number, and it talks, I think, very much to that notion of paying what it takes, paying people and employing people to drive action and create change and build partnerships and have time to get processes and procedures right, the fundamental things that make organisations resilient. So we've definitely been able to support a lot of that sort of activity through the program. Time. Yeah, so time, and that progress happens at the pace of community, and that each community is unique, is really integral to the program. And knowing that communities need flexibility and time to allow the conditions for long-term change to grow and respond to emerging challenges and issues. So the five-year time commitment to the program we see as kind of like the minimum, and a really great opportunity and to invest over the period, over the journey of the program, and see incremental change over the 5 years. Trust is really important, and building trust starts at the very beginning of the program. And as I said, sometimes it's also about unlearning some of those competitive tendencies, and that local leaders are keen to collaborate and network, but recognising that often time poor and the support of a neutral facilitator is really vital in establishing trust and connection and building pathways and practices through the program. So that's that community facilitator role that I was talking to about being really, really critical to help that momentum happen and build, over time, cross-cultural collaborations and other partnerships to emerge that are really relevant to your community. And finally, we learn about tenacity and that's being essential to understand the broader ecosystem and economic context and external stakeholder that can support longevity of the outcomes of the IRCF program. So really establishing clear pathways for future funding and resources is vital and something that we think about throughout the program. Also developing strong relationships between local councils, regional organisations, and the not-for-profit sector can create great and very important future options for the sector. I'm going to share a little video because I think some of the voices from our partner communities say it so well. So let's see how we go.
The highlight of the IRCF funding was to get us literally into this century. Prior to that funding, we couldn't afford all the IT that we now have. Everything was done on my computer and the Treasurer's computer. We now have that. We have point of sale for our sales. We know exactly what's sold. At the end of each week, we know where we're up to financially there. But on top of that, we've also met with other not-for-profits in town, and we're sharing things, and we're learning more about each other. It really has brought the community together.
I think IRCF should be delivered in many communities, because I think so many rural community organisations struggle with governance. They struggle with even legalities of what committee roles hold. I also think it's an important feature to be able to bring communities together and achieve similar goals without wearing out multitudes of volunteers. So shared resources is a huge thing.
The grant funded a coordinator for the Leeton Business Chamber. It's really allowed us to mature as an organisation. I think it really helped with collaborating, like embedding ourselves into the community, being identifiable, who we are, what we do. And I think it really helped us. We found a place in collaborating with industry and not-for-profits, bringing them together and forming relationships through events and other opportunities that we were able to create because we had more people on board.
All right. I really enjoy hearing the real voices. So hopefully that gives you some extra insights. I wanted to just highlight to you that we have recently published an impact report specifically related to the first 3 partner communities in New South Wales, so being Junee, Leeton and Nambucca Valley, that was supported by the Vincent Fairfax Family Foundation. So it's available on our website. I think I've already shared links to it. It talks about funded projects, case studies, learnings from the program, capacity building outcomes. So if you want to go deeper, that's a really great opportunity to do so. We've heard a little bit from some of our Junee community members. I thought I'd provide a little bit more context about some of their experiences. Just a small snapshot, because 5 years is a long time. But over the 5 years, 11 organisations were involved, receiving over $800,000 in funding across 26 different projects. And some of the early community roadmap priorities that came up, and these are just some of them. There's much more in their roadmap, but I just thought I'd highlight one under each of the pillars that I referenced. So around people, their priority was around increasing volunteer training and skills, including bringing young people along on that path. The second one around systems and structures was the development of a community hub, and acknowledging that in their community they were lacking this. This was a big gap for them. So a place for collaboration and sharing and training, all those sorts of things, was a goal for the community. Around the efficiencies pillar, increasing support between agencies to share and leverage resources. And finally, the strategy pillar. So one of their priorities there was around more environmentally efficient not-for-profits. So the Junee Community Centre is what we might call a backbone organisation or a lead organisation in their community. And thought I'd share a little bit about their journey through the program. So at the outset, there was a need for them to focus on their internal organisational capacity. So they received some funding to focus on that and develop a fundraising strategy, which was really valuable for them. It helped them attract NDIS funding and an income stream along those lines, which was quite game-changing for them, and to provide sort of a more sustainable organisation in the long term. They also, the centre manager also recognised that they were spending a lot of their time on the day-to-day tasks of operating the centre, and didn't have the capacity to think about compliance and reputation and other elements to really take the organisation to the next level. So by funding a subsidy for the centre manager to step aside and focus on those things, again, was really impactful for them to think differently about how they were delivering their services and operating. And investing in some of those organisational things allowed them to then think a little bit more broadly. So they identified that the community centre could play a really key role in perhaps driving and activating a community hub for the town. So they received some funding, one, to look at their financial sustainability, and also scope what a community hub could look like for their community, which progressed into a feasibility study in 2023. And really happy to report that they've now completed that feasibility study, which has identified that, yes, it's a realistic option for them to progress for their community. So now they're in a really great position to be able to start seeking additional funding to bring that to reality. So as you can see, as they've progressed through their journey, they've really focused on their internal organisational capability, and as they're moving through, they're starting to think more community-wide and collaboratively. So in 2023, they were able to bring on, through some funding, a community development officer to really build on some of the activities that were happening through the IRCF program efforts and carry them into the future beyond the program with FRRR. And there was also funding available for professional development. So to enable a cohort of local people to attend conferences like the Social Impact in the Regions conference, to attend training like Art of Hosting, so to really be able to travel outside of their community and access other opportunities and bring those skills back into their community, to really help activate ideas in Junee. So overall, the program's really strengthened the Junee Community Centre to advocate not only for themselves, but the community more broadly. And I always think a lovely example of this is that the Commonwealth Bank, the only bank in town, was forecast to close last year, and Junee Community Centre was also able to lead an advocacy effort to retain that branch in the town. So that was a really good local outcome for them as well. Another example is, you recall I mentioned that one of their priorities in their plan was around environmentally sustainable not-for-profit organisations. So this is where this example comes in. Junee Community Power, a local organisation, they received about $80,000 through the program, which really helped them to refine their processes, clarify their vision and business model, and built their capacity to support their community through a renewable energy transition. So in 2020, they received a partnership grant. The blue ones are what we call partnership grants, which are around organisational capacity building. So that grant enabled them to invest in solar systems to develop a community-owned renewable energy circular fund. The following year, they received some additional resourcing to generate working examples to support Junee not-for-profits to solve energy wastage. And then moving into 2023, what we call a toolbox grant, so a more collective community-wide impact grant. They conducted a feasibility study into a community battery installation. So another example of how the program's played out for an organisation, but also the community more broadly. So in terms of, I guess, a little bit about what FRRR is looking for in a community partner. We've been busily researching communities. We've been connecting with some key local people in different communities to learn more, but have really only scratched the surface. And of course, you are the experts on your community. So as much as FRRR is keen to work with communities, and we feel like, you know, there could be really great potential with the Maryborough community, we also want to make sure that communities are ready and willing and able and keen to partner with FRRR in the way that I've talked about today. We're looking for communities that are wanting to make an impact together and have shared priorities and opportunities to progress over the next sort of 3 to 5 years. We're also hoping to see a diversity of the not-for-profit sector and leaders, and I was so encouraged to see how many different organisations had registered for our session today to learn about the program, representing a really diverse range of organisations. So yeah, I was excited by that. We have done some work, you know, as I said, in the background, learning about your community and what's happening and the industry profile and those sorts of things. But of course, we would love to learn more from your perspective. And we talked about small to medium-sized not-for-profits being really the target and have the potential to gain the most through this program. So we're, you know, wanting to understand that there's activity across small to medium-sized not-for-profits in your community. So those are some of the things which hopefully make sense to you when we talk about the expression of interest process in a little bit. But before that, I have another video to share with you.
Junie's very, very good at standing up for one another, particularly when things get tough. So the purpose of the Junie Community Centre is to try and get the best possible outcome for our members of community, our aged, people living with disability and other vulnerable members.
From a council perspective especially, it's been great to establish the good connection with FRRR. Previously, I think everyone was sort of siloed and wanted to benefit individually. Now I think everyone's happy when we collaborate together, and as a team we can achieve the goals that we all want to achieve.
To have someone come in and see you from a completely different aspect and say, I've got faith in you. I believe when someone's got faith in you, you'll do anything.
I think the message for communities considering the IRCF program is do it. At the end of the day, you are investing in community for vibrancy and longevity, and it is absolutely worth it.
Okay, hopefully those videos played okay for you on your end. Alrighty, so if we thought I'd talk a little bit about next steps and then open up for questions that you might have. So if this program and what we've talked about today resonates as something that you're, as a community, interested to progress with, we encourage you to connect with your community now. There is an expression of interest process, which hopefully you have seen and we've tried to share across organisations. That is due on the 11th of December. Very mindful that that's not very far away. It is kind of looming into the festive season. I know Maryborough's had a really busy last week with the energy breakthrough. Love to hear about that more. So the intention is that it's light. Really, there's 4 questions, and really we're seeking to understand current priorities for your community and not-for-profit sector. We're inviting ideas and themes. We don't expect full project briefs by any means. We've invited a lead organisation to, I guess, nominate, and that organisation can just be a local not-for-profit that has the capacity right now to help facilitate this process. It's not committing them to anything in particular. It's just being able to play lead and support the development of an expression of interest if you'd like to. We only expect one expression of interest per community, although there may be a situation or circumstance, or it might make sense for your community to develop two in parallel, for example, and that would be okay. But there's no expectation that that happens at all. So I guess ultimately in the context that successful communities, there would be one community roadmap that is co-designed with your community, and it can represent a range of themes and goals and ideas and priorities. So that can all be housed in a single community roadmap. So in the context of that, hopefully that all makes sense. Following the expressions of interest, we can't wait to review those, and then we are planning for some community workshops. So they would be half-day workshops in early February, where we would invite selected communities to join us for what would be kind of a mini kind of community roadmap session, but really allow us to get some additional insights into your community and where you would see the program supporting over the coming years. So the intention for that workshop is it would add value and be a really useful activity regardless of whether your community did progress as one of our partners in the longer term. But if in the instance that there was a community that was involved in those workshops that didn't, we would certainly be looking for opportunities to perhaps support some kind of activity, whether that might be a more fulsome community workshop activity that would create a really valuable asset to support and guide activity for your community going forwards, or there might be some kind of collective project that rises to the surface that FRRR could support. So we'll certainly be really thinking about how we can support any communities that are involved in those workshops. Intrigued to know if there were any dates in particular in that date range between the 3rd and 14th that weren't suitable for your community. So we'd love to get feedback on that if that's the case. And we did think if it's useful, we could circulate the contact details of those organisations that have registered for today. You may already be really well connected and that's not necessary, but yeah, would be very happy to do that. And we would allow some time for people to opt out of that if they didn't want to get involved and have their details shared in that way. So goodness, that's a lot of information. And I feel like I've talked an awful lot. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can see your faces and open up to questions. Let me see. Jump in, please.
Can you hear me now?
I can.
Oh, great. Thanks, Joe. Tony Mason, I've had a couple of phone calls with you in the past.
Yes, how are you?
Great. Look, thanks very much for that presentation. That was brilliant. And I have to say for us, the Maryborough Volunteer Resource Group, we've been working purely volunteer capacity, but we actually, I have to say now, we've got quite an extensive group and there's a lot of talent in our group. But and we were auspiced by the Community House over the last few years, but we've recently become incorporated on our own bank account. And I think we're really well set, but this whole program fits in with our strategic plan like a hand in a glove. So it's a really exciting prospect for us. We've been working hard with the community in a purely voluntary capacity for a number of years, culminating in a really great forum. We had, it was really well attended, lots of people, lots of groups there. And so we've got a lot of the direction, the collaboration in place already. But and we've started training and things like that. But this opportunity, not just the money, which would really help a great deal, but in terms of we've been working in silos in this community for a long time, and we're gradually bringing together. This would get us over the line like unbelievably well, I think, and help us make our community more sustainable in terms of leadership. And a lot of volunteer groups are struggling at the moment, and we've got a pretty good idea of why, and we've been looking at the national volunteering strategy a lot of resources, we've done a lot of work. So this is actually like perfect for, in terms of a state of readiness, I think we're in a really good position. So the question is, so you mentioned like there's a lead group. We would be interested in looking at that, but so might, I've been talking to some other groups that might want to, and there's a lot of collaboration. We're not going to fight over it, but you know, we'll work that out together. So is there first question, is there a lead group?
So yeah, look, thanks, Tony. Great reflections, and really pleased to hear that you feel like this program model is kind of hitting the spot for some of the things that are happening in your community, and also that it's, you know, you get the broader, there's funding, but there's also a lot more that makes this program so impactful. So in terms of a lead organisation, it's kind of over to you as a community to identify who that might be. And as I said, it doesn't need to be, it's not an ongoing commitment. It's not, putting your hand up for anything in the future. It's really just if you've got the capacity at the moment to help your community coordinate a response, then, that sounds great. Yeah. Hopefully that's
just a second follow-up question. We already started working on the expression of interest. We're going to work on it further after this meeting, but are we allowed to send it to you as just to have a quick look at and get a bit of feedback before the 11th?
You're the first person that's asked me that, but I don't I don't see why not. We are happy to take calls, emails, whatever, to help support you work, pull together an expression of interest if that's what you'd like to do. So yeah, happy to chat.
Thanks.
I can see a question. Who would you expect to attend workshops in Feb? Reps from lots of not-for-profit groups. Look, Bronwyn, hello, nice to have you on the line. Ultimately, as I was talking to before, the idea of that workshop is that it's a great kind of capacity building opportunity, networking opportunity in its own right. So, we would encourage kind of broad representation. Hopefully, part of the awkwardness of the timing and the expression of interest before the festive season is that, and we're sort of trying to navigate that whole period, is that we're really trying to position ourselves to be ready to really run with the program in the new year and being able to, get on with our partner communities and really activate the program. February, we're aware that a lot of groups come back online after, a bit of a downtime and well-deserved downtime over, late December, January, particularly for volunteer-led groups. So appreciate, that people have other things on, but, keen to, hopefully the expression of interest process and, helps you show that there's sort of a diverse interest, and that in those February workshops, be great to see kind of broad representation there as well. For those.
Hi, Jo. Kerry Dowling, how you going?
Yeah, good, Kerry. How are you?
Yeah, great, thank you. I was just hoping with what you said earlier about sharing contacts, it would be great for us, those interested, to have a chat about the expression of interest together. We could look at doing a quick meeting next week with everyone who's been involved, who wants to continue to be involved. So I would love if you could send me a copy of contacts, if everyone's okay with that, so we can send out an invite to do that.
Yeah, sure. So what we might do, Emily can send around an email after our session today and give a bit of a window of time, maybe by lunchtime tomorrow, to invite people to opt out if they don't want to be involved in that. And then we can, shoot that around, say, lunchtime tomorrow.
That would be great. Thank you.
And feel free, we'll watch the chat. If you're happy for your details to be involved, shared in that way, then maybe just pop your name or organisation in the chat and we can pick up from there as well. Feel free to unmute if you've got another question, or just tell me how Energy Breakthrough went, because I would love to hear about that as well. So, but not at the expense of anyone having important questions, of course.
I can talk about it if you like, Jo. We've got quite a few energy break. We were nearly all volunteering for Energy Breakthrough. Yeah, it was an amazing event this year. Just incredible. Thousands and thousands of people. A few camping volunteers. We had to camp people on all the ovals, 3 big ovals, to see kids with their parents, with their teachers camping together, cooperating, working as a team for their event, doing their presentations, and then the main event goes 24 hours non-stop through the night. It's really worth having a look if anybody hasn't. It's an amazing event we put on here, and very well organised too.
Yeah, sounds wonderful. I've been kind of listening, like, wanting to pick up details. So congratulations, another year down, and I no doubt the planning for these things then pretty much starts again straight away. I don't know, but
I think it's just so lovely. I have literally walked past several conversations of community members, and you can see how proud they are of the event and how happy they are. And that anecdotal stuff, you kind of don't really capture that often. Just to, it's so great. Come see it. It's such a good event. And it's just lovely to hear people talk about their town and the event like that.
And we should add that over 700 volunteers are required. Yeah. So it's a big commitment by the community. Some of those come, of course, with the teams, some of those volunteers, but the whole, 360 degrees around is just, we're very proud of it.
Yeah, congratulations. Sounds amazing. That's huge. 700.
On another issue, I'm just looking around the room there, and it's great. I've seen a whole lot of emails out, just anybody I can think of, and I can see all sorts of groups there that, like Rachel Buckley there, he's a great proponent of the arts. So, this gives us capacity to, if groups have something they really want to work on, and we think it's a great thing to support, we can access funding and support for a whole range of things. Is that correct?
Through the program. So again, that community roadmap process helps to really identify the priorities for the community, and then guide how the investment happens over time, and really focus on, through those 4 pillars around people and systems and strategy, and efficiencies, how to get, how to use, leverage those ideas to get there. So, love the idea of collaborative ideas kind of coming together already. Hey, Terence, thanks for joining. Nice to see you.
Hey, Jo, I do have a sort of last-minute question just around that. Sorry. No.
Got you.
Yeah, just around the lead agency component of that, and kind of making some determination about that prior to putting an EOI in, because it's very short time frame in terms of coming to some kind of collective agreement. So I was wondering what your expectation is with regard to that, and whether it's just kind of demonstrating in the EOI that we've had conversations, we've had other kind of things happen throughout the course of even, say, the last year that have brought people together that's kind of informed what might be put forward in an EOI. So yeah, just wanting to get a sense of the expectation around that, whether it's a hard and fast agreement or not, or just something that indicates that there's been significant communication already, that more than just ourselves have contributed to the EOI, potentially, whether that's conversation or through, say, the group had a forum last year that really informed a lot of what they proposed to do as a group, and that engaged over 100, I think around about 100 community members and community organisations as well. So that's informed any kind of decision making at this end. So yeah, just wanting to get a sense of the scope of what you might be looking for in that regard.
Yeah, so yes, I would say to all of that, kind of reiterating that we don't expect long pages of details. Working in dot points is fine, but summarising, some of that activity, that previous activity through the forum, things that you learnt, shared goals. So that would be great. We tried to intentionally made it a PDF document, so hopefully it's easy to complete, and that you can share that digitally, even to kind of get endorsement from other community members. So we encourage that you kind of are able to kind kind of just detail or summarize in that the kinds of groups in your community that you've connected with, and obviously that will come through who's endorsed the EOI as well. So keep it simple is what I would suggest. Like, you know, doesn't need to be a long, detailed report. Yeah, that's not what we're asking for. We're really wanting to understand as a community that this model, this program resonates with you, that you're keen, and that there's a sort of collective support for the program. That's kind of the main thing that we're hoping to get out of it.
Sure, that sounds
Yeah. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to jump off now. Have a great rest of the afternoon and yell out if you'd like to touch base. All right. Bye.